map of Mesopotamia first. You will have another quiz on this chapter by the end of the week, and then a test on this chapter and chapter 1, because they combine chapters 1 and 2 for the first test in history next week. So we're going to start making sure that we practice these locations every single day that are on the test. You already know most of the ones that are going to be on the quiz. We've been practicing them all along. Got to make sure that you study them a little bit each day. So don't have your book open right now. You can close it since we're done with the American's Creed. Close your book. And eyes up here. Now this is the side of the map that does not have the names. We looked at it in Bible this morning as well. It's the same area that we're studying in Bible. And what do they call this whole thing right here that's greenish? Jackson.
The Fertile Crescent.
Good. Fertile Crescent. What do they call this specific area here? Abby.
The Mesopotamia.
Good. Why is it called Mesopotamia? What does that word mean, Sophia? Good. Between the rivers is Mesopotamia. What are the rivers? BJ. Yeah, what are the names of the two rivers that are so important to the cradle of civilization? You do have an idea. This one means arrow. Do you remember what it was called? Mason, help him out. Arrow.
Tigris.
The Tigris. Good. This one means that which makes fruitful, because it was fertile here. Okay. What's this river called? Do you remember? The Euphrates River. Euphrates. All right. What was the name of this city that we put on our Bible map today, the one at the bottom? Abby? Ur. It looks like U-R could be pronounced a lot of different ways, but it's just Ur. Almost sounds like you're stuttering. Ur. That's all it is. What's the name of this little triangle up here? Triangles will always represent a mountain or a mountain range. Sophia?
Mount Moriah.
No, Mount Moriah is over here. Sorry. What is this one up here?
Oh,
Mount Ararat. And what is Mount Ararat known? Why is it known? That's where Noah's Ark landed. Good. All right. What is the name of this other important city in the Fertile Crescent and in Mesopotamia? This city became the capital city of a civilization that was in power 3 different times. It was so powerful. Well, the whole country was called Sumer, and this city was its capital. No, it's Babylon. Good. Babylon. And Babylon settled from the people who stayed there after the Tower of Babel fell. Because God destroyed the Tower of Babel. The people that did stay there, because remember God told them to scatter. Well, one group did end up staying there. And that was the group that ended up building Babylon. And Babylon was the capital city of Babylonia. Sumer was here. Babylonia was here. And Babylon, that civilization was powerful 3 different times in history because it's like they wouldn't die off. They ended up taking people captive from other countries when they would conquer their lands and make them slaves, and they weren't super nice. Not super nice people. Okay, so there's from that one. You will also need to know a couple of other locations than that. Those were the locations for the quiz. For the test, you'll also need to know what this place is. What is this body of water? Emma? talked about it in Bible because it literally means in the middle of the land. Mediterranean. So this is the Mediterranean Sea.
Meditation and put, and take away the meditation, just put Terranean. And then you get.
Maybe. All right, so the Mediterranean Sea, that was the only other location that we didn't look for. You also had to know the Mediterranean Sea on the modern day map. So let me put the modern day map up. Well, that didn't work. All right. Boy, these maps are beat up from where I've used them over the years. And if I'm looking at the world map, the Mediterranean Sea is in the very middle.
Yeah.
So it's aptly named, isn't it? It's in the very middle of the world, if I flatten out the globe. And we say that this is the middle because civilization began right here. That this is where civilization began. So if I'm looking at this ancient map and making a comparison, here's the Tigris and Euphrates, very visible on the ancient map. And on the modern day map, you still see the Tigris and Euphrates figuring in this central section right here. This is called the Middle East today. Today they call this area the Middle East. And you'll hear about the Middle East often in the news. Other locations that you're going to need to know on the world map are your oceans. So what ocean is at the top of the world? Arctic Ocean. Some of you put Antarctica on the quiz yesterday when it asked for the ocean. Okay, keep in mind Antarctica is a continent, not an ocean. So I had to count it wrong. I don't take off for spelling, and you might say, well, I just didn't know how to spell it. We pointed out the difference between Antarctica and the Arctic Ocean multiple times because of that. You can't confuse them. One's a body of water, the other one is a continent, land. So what is this continent at the bottom of the earth called? Antarctica. Ant means below. Abby.
Speaking of the test, when will we do those
The
tests?
quizzes. I don't pass back quizzes for you to look over, and you'll get them in your folders on Friday when you get your Friday folder. Tests we will go over the next day, but quizzes we don't. We don't really have time to go over every quiz. You get quizzed a lot in history and science. Okay, other locations you'll need to know. What is this ocean right here? The Pacific Ocean. Good. What is this ocean right here? The Pacific. The Pacific is not two separate oceans. It's that the earth wraps around in a circle, a sphere. So this is, if I laid it flat, it would be like I'm separating the Pacific Ocean. But it's not separated in real life. Understood? Mason? I'm going to give you permission to look for that because I'm afraid you're going to spill your water. Can you pick up the water and put it on my desk?
It's under that desk.
Thank you, Sophia. Okay, what is this ocean? This small ocean right here.
The Indian Ocean.
Indian Ocean. It's not the smallest, because the smallest is the Arctic, but it is pretty small in comparison to the Atlantic and the Pacific. So the Indian Ocean is known as the what ocean? Warmest. It's the warmest ocean. Okay, then we have this one that separates the Americas, North America, South America, from Europe and Africa. And what is this ocean here? Atlantic. If you go to the beach from West Virginia, you will probably go to the Atlantic Ocean. There is a place in New Jersey called Atlantic City Beach. Okay? Yeah, because it's on the Atlantic. So they named it after the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. There are only 4 oceans: Arctic, Indian, Atlantic, Pacific. Let's look at the continents, because you have to know the continents as well. What is this one? Africa. What's this one?
Australia.
Australia. I hear one person calling out these continents.
Asia.
Europe.
North America. South America. Antarctica.
Greenland.
It is, it's Greenland. It's not a continent, is it?
I was gonna say that.
It's not.
Greenland over there.
Greenland is an island that's considered part of North America.
Greenland is called Greenland, and Iceland is called
I know why it's
But
called
Iceland
Greenland,
is green,
because it's
and
full of
Greenland
green
has got stuff.
It's a green tree.
I did not name them. I don't know.
Wait, when you up there?
I don't know who did it, but they were wrong. Okay. Open in your book to page 17. History book. History book, page 17. You will need your highlighter.
Oh, it's finally good.
You already highlighted what you needed to highlight from the reading from yesterday, pages 16 and 17. You already highlighted the definition of archaeology. So we are moving on to religion in Sumer. Page 17. Ready? Superstition. Although they were an intelligent people who left an impressive culture for men to study, the Sumerians were not wise about one very important thing. They turned away from God. And I'm going to show you on this map where Sumer is again, because Sumer is where is located, and God took Abram out of that area to get him away from the Sumerians. They chose to mix God's truth with their own false ideas. They became very superstitious. Superstition is a belief that is based on fear and ignorance rather than on the truth. Highlight the definition of superstition. Did you highlight it? The definition of superstition. It is bold and it also has the definition underlined. Abby?
I accidentally read that part and already highlighted the two.
All right, you're ahead of the game. Who can tell me a common superstition from today? Olivia.
Well, this probably isn't common, but some people have superstition about cats, about black cats.
Black cats, good.
Yeah,
And if a black cat crosses your path, you're said to have a bad event getting ready to happen in your life. What's another superstition from today that you hear about? Mason?
If you see a black cat, you put an X, and it will happen.
And it will what?
The bad luck won't happen.
Oh, I didn't know about the eggs.
Oh yeah.
I've not heard about the counteracting of the superstition on
I've
that
heard
one.
about the eggs.
Abby?
If you put your head under a ladder.
Aha, if you walk under a ladder,
What?
it's going to be bad luck.
Stupid.
I have no idea.
Oh,
Shh. Jackson, do you have a superstition? Don't give me a story, give me a superstition. Keep thinking, because there's a bunch of them. Olivia?
If you step on a crack, you break your nose and back.
There you go.
Actually, one
There's
time,
even a commercial about that one right now.
one time,
All right, Mason.
Open an umbrella in the house.
Open an umbrella in the house. I don't know where that one came from. All right, anybody else think of any? Just name the superstitions. Don't tell me a story. Sophia?
Salt.
Spilling salt, yes. Or if you knock over the salt shaker, you're supposed to throw some over your shoulder to counteract it.
Because I saw a video about it.
All right, what else? Mason?
Breaking a mirror.
Breaking a
Yes,
mirror.
breaking a
Very good. I was hoping someone would remember that one. Yes?
Like breaking your TV.
Breaking your TV?
That's a bad
That's a bad thing anyway. But. So if we think back to say walking under a ladder.
Walking.
Why would that have become a superstition?
Because it could fall.
Because the ladder could fall, or the person on the ladder could fall on you. Or if there's something resting on the ladder, it could fall on you if you walk under it. So I can understand, especially since if you walk under a ladder, there's not a lot of space, you might bump into it, then it's going to be even more likely to fall.
But that's
I
not
can understand where people would be afraid to walk under a ladder.
But that doesn't mean something bad is
It's just
going
life.
to happen.
Right.
Turn it back.
So we can see where superstitions seem silly to us, but there are some people who really are afraid of them. Like think of Friday the 13th.
Oh, Jason.
Oh yeah.
There's a whole movie
Oh, yeah,
series. Don't give me your stories about that yucky movie. No. So-
superstition.
So we know these superstitions are really silly, but there are a lot of people who put a lot of stock into it. The day that we got out of school before COVID, when everything shut down, was March 13th, and it was a Friday. It was a Friday the 13th. So I've heard all kinds of people say things about that was because
remember
COVID
people
was because it was a March
One
13th.
time I remember
So
finding the date and it said Friday 13th.
Everybody
2019.
could probably think of some kind of situation that did occur because one of these superstitions happened. But that's not always going to happen. It doesn't mean that every Friday the 13th is going to be bad. So superstitions are just a belief that is based on fear, you're afraid of something, and ignorance, maybe you don't know better, rather than truth. So let's continue reading under that definition. Superstition often keeps people from learning all the new things that God intended for man to learn because it makes them afraid to study God's creation. The Sumerians worshipped what God had created and gave no thought to God himself. So they were worshiping creation. The Native American Indians did the same thing. They worshipped what God created rather than God himself. They thought that thunder, wind, storms were gods. It's no wonder that their superstition brought them fear. Look at the next word, ziggurats. The Sumerians built tall temples called ziggurats for worshiping their gods. Highlight that sentence. The Tower of Babel was a ziggurat. Each ziggurat was built in layers. The bottom layer was the largest, the next layer was a little smaller, and each higher layer was smaller yet. On top of the last and smallest layer, the people built an altar on which to offer sacrifices to their gods. Highlight that sentence, on top of the last and smallest layer. It's in the middle of the paragraph. They felt that the taller the ziggurat, the more successful they would be in reaching up to heaven and communicating with their gods. Not the God, but their gods, their false gods. Yes. In the middle of the paragraph, it says on top of the last and smallest layer. Highlight that whole sentence. Did you get the sentence that you highlight in the middle of the paragraph? Okay, page 18. What a difference between our God and theirs. Ours is the creator, not something that has been created. Our God can be reached anywhere at any time, not just from the top of a high building. Our God is the living, loving God of heaven, who's able to hear and answer the prayers of his children. He is not a frightening part of our imagination or of nature. The people in ancient cities realized the importance of education, especially of reading and writing. School was held in the temples, but usually only the wealthy attended. In most cities, only boys went to school. The teachers were priests who taught the boys reading, writing, and arithmetic, as well as a trade for later in life. The boys sat on flat stone benches. Each student was given soft clay that he used as a tablet for practicing his writing. When his tablet was full, he most likely smoothed out the marks on it and began again. In some schools, there were dictionaries and grammar books. In most cities, there were libraries as well as schools. Now, we've found records of all of these things, or artifacts of all of these items that have proven this history. Homes in Sumer. The Sumerian builders were very skillful. They were the first to build the arch and the dome. Highlight those two sentences. Now think about that. They built arch and dome. Those are circled shaped, like circular shaped, and they're made out of hard materials of stone. So think about what an invention that was. Remember we talked about they were the ones who invented the wheel also. Another round
That's
thing.
pretty helpful.
It is extremely helpful.
Yeah.
Prosperous families usually lived in 2-story homes built around a courtyard. Less prosperous people lived in 1-story homes. The homes were constructed of brick made from clay. The walls were thick to keep out the summer heat. Remember we talked about the temperatures in this area get between 120 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit in the summertime. Okay, now compare that to Bluefield, the air-conditioned city of America. That's its nickname. And it is amazing if we get over 90, right? They have lemonade days if it gets over 90 in Bluefield. Over there, the typical summer temperatures, 120 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't think I could even stand it. I would not be able to handle it. I feel like I would combust. So they built these homes made of thick bricks to keep out that summer sun. Nearly everyone enjoyed flat roofs on the top of the buildings. After a hot day, the people would often go up to their roof to enjoy a cool evening. If the night was hot, the people would even sleep on their roofs. And some people built guest rooms on their roofs so that if they had a traveler that came by, they could put them up on the roof. Yes?
We went to South, I think it was a week before, 2 or 3 weeks before, it was day of orientation.
Okay.
We left for South Carolina,
Uh-huh.
and we had to pick up my dad's truck because he was getting a lift kit on it. And when we picked it up, we were in somewhere in South Carolina, or North Carolina, whichever one, and it was 103 degrees. And we were sitting in the truck with the air conditioning as low as it would go. And we were like,
Weren't you thankful for that air conditioning?
yes. And my dad was standing out there. We brought his car
Uh-huh.
to Suburban, so they were standing out there chaining up to get Suburban to get it back to West Virginia. And he was out there, and I was like, how is he not dead? It was
I
like
can understand that.
104 degrees.
You feel like you're going to die out
Oh,
there.
Lord.
All right, Abby.
It's only like they said it was gonna be pretty good day.
This Monday?
Next Monday.
Next Monday? Oh my goodness.
And, we went to Florida and we went to the beach. It was like hot.
Yes, it can get really hot down there. Jackson.
There's a horror movie called Krampus, and somebody was so scared of it that they made a superstition that is, on Christmas Eve, if you do 5 bad things on purpose, Krampus will come down your chimney and haunt your house.
I've seen that movie.
I know.
All right.
Literally, some guy was so scared of it, they made that superstition.
Okay.
And then everybody started making videos of like, oh, I did 5 bad things for Krampus.
All right, that's it of that. The importance of the seal. Next section. The seal was an instrument used to stamp an article or document. So highlight that sentence. You may have seen a piece of stationery that has the seal of MCA on it. Official papers from MCA have the MCA seal. Here's one right here. Here's the MCA seal.
Oh, and the West Virginia seal.
The West Virginia seal. You studied that last year in West Virginia history. Nearly everyone had and used his own individual seal. It was a mark of identification because it was different from everyone else's seal, and it was like their signature. Today we just write our name, but they used their seal. There were different kinds of seals. People in some areas used rings that you wear on your finger as stamps to make seals. The most common type of seal in Sumer was the cylinder, called a cylinder seal. Each person chose the pictures and words he wanted on his seal and had them engraved on a cylinder. It was just a round tube of clay. When the cylinder was rolled over a piece of wet clay, the seal was baked, so it was hard. And you could roll it over another piece of clay that was soft, and it would engrave their seal, the person's seal, on that piece of clay. It left a raised picture or pattern of the words and pictures that they were trying to use as their own seal. This cylinder mark on a piece of clay was the same as someone signing his name to a piece of paper today. So they showed you some examples of a cylinder seal, and you can see how in the seal itself the image is dug in. You see how the image is dug in on the cylinder seal? But on the piece of clay, it leaves a raised image. So you see it right next door to each other. Everybody looking at the bottom of the page to see the pictures, so you can compare. Because you're going to make something like this in science. Okay, you're going to make an artifact in science, a fossil.
And berries.
Not today, no. It'll be next chapter.
Berries. Oh, there's the superstition that if you step on a crack, you'll break your mom's back. We went to Disney World in 3rd grade, so I was trying not to step on cracks. And I was with my dad because I think we were, I was getting my see Baymax or whatever,
Mhm.
and I was with my dad, and I stepped on a crack, and I went to my mom, and she said, and I said, Mommy, does your back hurt? And she said, actually, it does hurt a little bit. And I was like, oh no, I broke your back.
See, fear.
Yeah.
Okay, the top of page 19, and we'll finish it up. The Sumerian kept his cylinder seal in clay as handy as we keep our pen and paper. There was a hole in each cylinder through which a cord was strung so the Sumerian could wear the cylinder around his neck, just like we wear our keys around our neck. Laws were written on a clay tablet that bore the ruler's seal. When the people saw the ruler's seal, they realized they must obey the law. Letters were also sealed. That doesn't mean closed up so that somebody else can't get in it. That means that they had the seal stamped on it. So even some books were sealed because the author of the book would seal the book. It's a good thing I had this on. Yes, ma'am.
This is Neil Boyd, be at the front door.
Okay, thank you very much.
Be back.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Be back.
He will be back, right?
Yeah. It's only going to take like an hour.
Okay, just you.
He said he's back.
I thought so. All right, Mason, we will see you in a little while. Okay, he's going to a doctor's appointment. You can put that away. Don't put it too far away because you're going to need it for your next map skill sheet. You're going to be filling out the map from page 13 on a map skill sheet, but not right now. Okay, we're going to save that for what you can do. You can use your time after you finish your language test to work on your map skill sheet.